Lady fellas, F&R Society, welcome to the Fantasy and Reality Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Tacker. Today in the ridiculously overdecorated studio, we're going to discuss the Thursday night preview of our first Week 5 matchup. Starting out in Week 5 will be the Los Angeles Rams heading north to take on the NFC rival Seattle Seahawks. Both teams head into Week 5 with a 3-1 record. The Rams were defeated last week by a score of 55-40 by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jared Goff had a record number of pass attempts in that game. The offense as a whole put up a nice amount of fantasy points. We're not too disappointed if you started any of the guys on the Rams team in Week 4. The same goes for if you started most of the Seattle offense last week. In PPR format, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett, Will Disley all performed very solidly. Last week, the Seahawks went on the road to demolish the Arizona Cardinals 27-10. The only loss that the Seattle Seahawks have had to suffer this entire season so far has been at the hands of the New Orleans Saints. So the Seahawks will be coming home with a bit of momentum, having defeated a division rival, and in hopes of continuing their division run with a win over the Rams. LA will be coming into this game looking to get back into their winning ways with a victory over the Seahawks. Both teams have solid foundations throughout offensive and defensive positions. This should be one of the more entertaining Thursday night football games of the season thus far because, let's face it, the last few have not been all that great. For this game, I would basically start everyone that I can. If Jameis Winston can put numbers against the Rams defense, then I'm very confident that Russell Wilson could do the same thing with the 12th man behind him. Jared Goff threw like 60 times last week. If they're down in this game really fast, look for them to air it out a bunch of times. Hopefully it will be an interesting game, a high-scoring game, so that way they can go back and forth. If it's a one-sided game, it would be a bit disappointing. One of them will go to the run, and although the run game is nice for each side if you have the running backs, for the offense as a whole, for the quarterbacks and the receivers and tight ends, it won't be that interesting of a game if it's one-sided. Now, both Chris Carson and Todd Gurley could see potential volume depending on how much they want to milk the clock. As I said, it could be one-sided so that one of the guys could be just leaning on the run, kind of just slowing down the game and just trying to defeat their opponent just mentally and physically. They're each involved in the receiving game, Carson and Gurley. So if it's an interesting game where they each go tip-tap, back and forth, you could see, just like last week, Gurley didn't do very much on the ground, but he had very good receiving game, so that kind of salvaged his day. So if you're in a PPR league, they will benefit even more and have more value to your lineup, as I said, if they're more involved in the run game. As for the receivers in this game, Tyler Lockett to start. DK Metcalf is like a PPR flex. Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, and Cooper Kupp are all starts as well. I mean, just like I said last week, it's basically who's going to see it is going to be one of them. You're just not sure who it is. That's the only downfall, is that you're not sure which of the guys is going to be the dominant one. But, I mean, one of them, if not two, will actually, produce at least double-digit points for you, especially PPR leagues. And Robert Woods had a slow start to the season, but since then has picked it up, last week being his strongest performance of the season, I believe. So if you have any of the receivers in LA, you have to start them. This isn't a question of will anyone go off, it's just who's going to go off. So as far as the tight ends go, those are basically the only concern. I would start Everett with caution because last week he had a touchdown. It was nice. It wasn't really all that predictable. So if they can continue with the tight end play, that would be nice. But, I mean, last week they had 55 points against them, so they had to score, with anything possible by any means necessary. So if they have to do that again in Seattle, you can look for Everett to be valuable. As far as Will Disley goes, I mean, he's basically a must-start at the tight end position at this point. The guy's going off, getting you numbers. This production should definitely continue throughout the rest of the season. We'll have to see how the defense responds with such an offense that's trying to blow up on them on the scoreboard for each side. It should hopefully be a great game. But if I had to put my money on a winner, it would probably have to be the LA Rams. But because basically, I mean, you don't really bet against Sean McVay. But on the other hand, I would not be the least bit surprised if the Seattle Seahawks were able to pull this one off and escape with a victory over the Rams and steal another win in the division. Because, I mean, it is division. No matter how, just like any other time, no matter how good or bad two teams are doing, in division play, it's always a tight matchup, always an interesting game because they play each other twice a year. They know what each other's going to do. They're a lot more familiar than a team they play every 1 or 2 years. So it should be a much more interesting game no matter how the teams are doing. But since they're both doing well, I think it'll be a fantastic game. Hopefully, it'll be the most interesting Thursday night football game we've had this season. But that was my Thursday night preview of the Week 5 matchup featuring the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. Let me know down in the comment section below who you're choosing to win this game and why. Also, decide who you want to start and sit for this matchup for each team, and also tell me why. We can debate about it, see who you like and dislike. But as always, thank you for tuning in and thank you for all your support. Leave your questions, feedback, topic suggestions, comments down there in the comment section below. We will get to any and all questions that you have. We'll try to answer them as accurately and in-depth as possible. And remember that sports are supposed to be enjoyed together. So tell someone about us, watch together. We want to grow the F&R Society as much as possible. And in order to do that, you gotta smash that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button so we keep trying to give you as much content as possible. And also don't forget to hit that little notification bell so that you receive our content the instant it appears online, so you're the first to get the inside scoop. But lastly, God bless America and God bless fantasy football. Take care.